Now with the community about to receive their 5th installment of Zombies from Treyarch, it's time to finally discuss what game is best for beginners and what game has the best maps overall. So to date we have 4 installments into the Zombies franchise from Treyarch. That's World at War, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2 and obviously Black Ops 3. Some people joined us at Black Ops 3, some people have been with us since World at War, but a lot of people, wherever they jump in, are struggling with maps that some people do and some people don't struggle with. It's a learning curve. So we're going to find out today what game is probably best for new people to start on and why we think it's best for the experienced players to play the maps that they like playing and getting high rounds on, and why learners should start where they do. So the first game was Call of Duty World at War that featured 4 very basic maps with no Easter eggs, no storyline, no nothing like that up until Shinonuma, where we first started to get our little first bits of dribs and drabs of story, but no major gameplay elements like specialist weapons or hidden weapons or things like that. There were 4 very basic maps that didn't actually have Pack-a-Punch until the 5th one, and they only introduced perks onto the 2nd one. The first one was National Totem that had very basic mechanics. Guns on the wall, 1 mystery box that didn't move, and only 3 rooms in an abandoned bunker. So in the subsequent map packs that followed National Totem, the players were given something new that changed their game mechanic and how they played the game. For example, Verrückt added perks, Shinonuma added dogs, and Derice added Pack-a-Punch. Now these added mechanics did change how players could play the game. In Verrückt, for example, people started to play a bit more aggressive because they had things like Juggernog and Double Tap that would allow them to take more hits and fire faster to get through the waves quicker. In Shinonuma, people would stop switching out weapons because they ran out of ammo, because they could get max ammos at the end of Hellhounds rounds. And obviously, Derice, you could upgrade your gun, which means you could go for those higher rounds. In my personal opinion, World at War is a good place for anyone to start, because you have the progression from basic Easter egg map all the way up to something where you can upgrade your gun and have all these perks that can help you progress through the rounds. I recommend it for anyone who wants to join into the Zombies community, or even just going back for a bit of fun, because again, the natural progression will just make you slowly learn that learning curve, and as you go through the maps you will actually find that you go further and further on each one because of the new mechanics that got added. Now the second entry in the franchise came in the form of Black Ops and its 7 maps, not including the 4 remakes from World at War. And some of these maps even added in little bits of their own gameplay mechanics that changed how people play, but they weren't as revolutionary as the World at War ones were. So some of the things that were added in this installment were things like having to teleport to a completely different location to Pack-a-Punch your gun, giving you 30 seconds just to have a breather and, you know, get yourself together before you have to go back down and fight the zombies. Things like random perk drops from people like George Romero or the monkeys from Ascension, and even things like special grenades like the Gersh device and Matryoshka, they were all added in Black Ops, and they did actually revolutionise the way people could play because they could get higher rounds again using the weapons they could, but these special grenades were like kind of panic buttons, especially like the Gersh device, which could throw us down and all the zombies would be sucked away from you. Now alongside these gameplay mechanics we also saw the rise of the storyline Easter egg. This started of course in Ascension with the Casimir mechanism, but that was uncredited, you didn't get a trophy or anything for it, and then obviously we developed through Call of the Dead, Shangri-La and to Moon, and by the end of Moon we had 2 achievements for it and permanent perks, which means the evolution from Ascension to Moon was actually greatly encouraged by the developers and the community themselves. Now as much as I love this game, I would not recommend this for new players to start, because the maps, apart from Kino, they're very close quarters, they're very, you know what you've got to do, you have to know your mechanics. Things like training as well, this was when the community was first on the rise. I think Ascension was when we started to actually like properly take off. So the maps were not built because of how they wanted to be built in a sense, they were in some ways tailored to the community. So this was when training was just starting to get into a thing, so they'd build areas in maps, apart from Shangri-La where they explicitly said we've made it so you can't stay in one area and run around all the zombies, but this is where you have to get your mechanics down, you have to know where everything is. Some of the maps are a little bit confusing, some of them aren't, but as a new player, as you're blasted with all this new information, it's going to be difficult to get to grips with it so quickly. I know I started playing on 5 and it took me about 7 games to even realise that I had to have power on. So like I said, these maps, they're not so much confusing, but they're going to take a while to get you into the basics, and I think it's just better if you play World at War and learn the natural progression of, you know, power, then perks, then Pack-a-Punch and things like that. Now Black Ops 2 marked a change in the zombies community because we lost our first lead designer for Nazi zombies, which was Jimmy Zielinski, and we started to see more of Jason Blundell's work in maps like Origins and Mob of the Dead. However, we did get some Jimmy maps in Black Ops 2, so they kind of were the natural progression that we've been talking about, but then we also had these Jason Blundell maps that were in there which blew the other maps completely out of the water just because they've revolutionized gameplay. So in this sense, without going too much into details about all the different maps, because there's a lot, I feel like this is a very bad place for new people to start. Although the maps are really cool, I have nothing against the maps. It actually features my 2 favourite maps, and the 2 maps that are most debated about in the community about which one's the better one, Mob of the Dead or Origins. I feel like with the mix between Jimmy's maps and Jason's maps, you're going to get confused very quickly unless you've played previous installments, because you have these mechanics that are specific to Jason's maps, like turning on the power without using a power switch through like generators or zapping the boxes in Mob of the Dead. And then you also have your more traditional power switches in Jimmy's maps, like in Buried and that, where you have to physically flip a switch. However, if I was introducing someone new to zombies, I think Black Ops 2 would be the game that I showed them. I know a lot of people would say Black Ops 3, but I'm going to go on to why not that one just in a moment. But Black Ops 2, I think, because you can fight in so many amazing environments like Alcatraz or the multiplayer map Nuketown, and even having things like staffs and Tommy guns and, you know, blundergats. Like, it's one of those that you show a friend and you're like, look, this is really cool, you know, we're gangsters, we're in prison gangsters fighting in a prison against zombies with this massive shotgun type thing. Or, you know, you remember your favourite map Nuketown? Well, look, now it's got zombies on it, now try and see how long you survive on this. So I think Black Ops 2 would be the game that I show to a person to say, this is zombies, this is the kind of things you could do in it. If I knew it was someone that wasn't going to try and like get high rounds or anything, I'm just showing them, just say like, this is what I spend my time doing, then I think they'd be like, oh yeah, that's quite cool actually, that's really cool. So Black Ops 2 is highly regarded by me, but not a good place to start playing zombies, but a good game to show people who say, well, what's zombies about? And finally we have Black Ops 3, and I like to call this one the wow factor game, because although it's all done by Jason Lundell here, we have no Jimmy Zielinski maps, and the gameplay elements are there. We have some new ones, we have some old ones. I think that this, because of its budget and its next-gen capabilities, this was like a big blockbuster based production. Now this game holds a map that is highly regarded as one of the best zombies maps in history, and that's Dreisendrach. It also holds the map that is widely regarded as the most hated zombies map in history, which is Zetsubo no Shima, and the most disappointing map in zombies, which was Revelations. However, I don't think I'd recommend showing these maps to anyone, because I feel, like I said, this game was a big blockbuster. This wasn't made for the community anymore, it was made for, you know, everyone who was interested in Call of Duty, because the zombies community was just growing and growing and growing. So in that sense, everything was done on a much grandiose scale. So we've got things like, you know, moon explosions and dragons and things like this, and, you know, crazy power bows. So I feel like in this game, although it is zombies, it's kind of moved away from what it used to be. It's moved away from its roots, and it's just become this big, like, look, now we're throwing dragons at you, and now we're throwing, you know, moon explosions and tentacle monsters and things like that. So I think showing this to someone who doesn't know what zombies are about would be a bit hit and miss, because you might have some people who'd be like, oh, that's pretty cool, but then I've done it before where I've showed it to someone and they'd be like, I've got no idea what's going on, like, why the hell am I a tentacle monster now, who the hell's this guy? And this one was based heavily around stories. The Easter eggs were one big story, all intertwined between all the maps, and I think it's partially solely for the community, because they were saying, here you go, here's your original 4, here's their story, here's how it ended. And it was partly for the rest of the community saying, look, we know you like multiplayer and we know you like campaign, but look, we can do the same kind of things as them. We can have these big, amazing set pieces with, you know, explosions and fights and gunplay, but we can also do pretty scenery, so look at that. Just to emphasize on that last point, I'm not hating on Black Ops 3, it is one of my most loved zombies games. Not quite as high as Black Ops 2, but it's up there. I'm just saying that I wouldn't show it to someone who's new, because they just wouldn't understand it. So without shocker, I would normally say that the best place for someone to start playing zombies is generally the start of the story. Even if it's just play the 4 first maps and then you go on to Black Ops 2 or Black Ops 3 and then come back to Black Ops 1, I just reckon you have to start with the World at War maps just to see that natural progression. And although it's not a tutorial, it kind of is, because it says, okay, here's your base map, here's how the mystery box works, here's how door opening works, and then you go into Verrucht and it says, okay, take all those things you just learned in Natch about the box and the doors and apply those to perks. So this perk does this and this perk does this, and you can do this in the map. And then you move all that away from Shino Numa, where they're saying, okay, so you've got your perks which now randomly move, you understand how the box works, that now moves, but here are Hellhounds, so you can get these drops that give you max ammos and things like that, and then you move all of that into Derice, and you say, okay, we're going big now, so you've got your power, your doors, your box, your perks, your hellhounds, but now you have teleporters and this machine called a Pack-a-Punch which upgrades your weapons. And then once you've done all that, you pretty much have the basis for every Nazi zombie map, because you can go into any map and go, okay, my objectives, find the power, find the Pack-a-Punch, find the box, find the perks. And that's how most people play new zombies maps, you know. You'll see all the tutorials, how to find Jug in this, how to switch on power, and how to easily locate box and things like that. So that's why I recommend you start at World at War, because it shows you that natural progression that we all saw throughout the zombie maps. But that's all just my opinion. I want to know what you guys think. If you agree with me that World at War is the best place to introduce a completely new person into playing zombies, feel free to leave a like on the video. If not, tell me why in the comments and tell me what game you'd rather them start on. Other than that, I've been GeneralGerbil. Peace out.